10 years ago, I would have never, ever emailed a company and been like, this isn't good enough, and it might have started with calling them and just politely being like, hey, this feels like something's gone wrong, and they'll be like, too bad, and then I'll be like, okay, and then I'll like hang up, so I think it's like, don't take the literal example, just think about it as like, sit on the edge of your comfort and get comfortable there, and you'll just naturally build more confidence generally.
Yeah, I love, because it seems so simple, but I love the depth into it, where it's like, actually, push yourself to call people and to practice complaining and practice standing up for yourself in a context where it doesn't matter at all if they say no. Hello and welcome back to the Get Rich Slow Club podcast. I'm Tash and I'm here with Hayden, who is a Perla co-founder, and you also host another podcast as well.
Yeah, the Aussie FIRE Pod with Dave Gow. It's good fun.
When I talk to you, I always love hearing your frugal hacks. They're some of my favorite ever, and I feel like we bond over the travel ones a lot. But I've heard of some more interesting ones that you've been up to, so we're just going to do a whole episode on Hayden's frugal hacks.
Sounds good.
I feel like you have a very interesting brain, a very analytical brain.
Yeah, that's one of the more polite ways people put it, to be honest.
I'm obsessed with it. I love how it's like a self-development thing always. Well, we were talking about your peanut butter story, if you want to share that with everyone.
Yeah, there was, I made a YouTube video a few months ago. It's a good little story about, basically, I was with our team in the Gold Coast and I had a peanut butter jar. I only used half of it. I couldn't bring it with me because I was going to Korea after for a little holiday, and I didn't have checked baggage, so I just didn't have the space for like a glass jar. But I also knew I'd be coming back in a few months to the Sunshine Coast to visit my sister, and I was like, well, both of those trips are going to be coming through Brisbane. So I tried to find a random piece of bush in Brisbane and shove the peanut butter in there, more as an experiment to see if it'll still be there. And it takes very little effort, and it was still there. It was a bit dirty on the outside, but on the inside it was fine. And it was, I guess, a couple of free breakfasts in a sense.
I love that it was like the lesson behind it though. Like it wasn't actually about the act of being frugal, because some people think, being frugal is like really boring, or you're really like, they have lots of negative connotations to it. But I loved the lesson that came out of it.
Yeah, I think one thing I've learned about my own saving of money is that if you have money and you don't need to save money, that's where it gets interesting. Because obviously when you just don't have money, you have to save money. But as I've gotten older and I have more money, I've realized there has to be some kind of development or learning experience with it. And a good example is I just take toll roads now after living in Sydney for 12 years. I've been like, that's the reason I work hard. I don't have anything to learn from toll roads anymore. Yeah. I've done that for a decade.
You've suffered.
Yeah, I get it. There's nothing more I'm going to get from taking the 8-minute longer journey home now. So, but there's lots of things like that where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen there. There's going to be some way I develop out of that. And I probably wouldn't do it again. At least I know I can. That's the comforting part, and I know what happens, and I think that makes me feel good.
I like the challenge behind it sometimes, because I definitely have more money than I used to have, and I can definitely buy more convenient things, but I do like the challenge to see how good of a deal you can get and if you can hack all the systems.
Yeah, exactly. It is fun. Obviously, you need the time for it sometimes, which can be hard, and there are times when I don't do it because I don't have the time. But when I do have the time, it is good to see what happens. Like I had a company try to screw me over recently, and I'll try and complain to them and try and see what the escalation paths are. And that's like a sinkhole of time, and I think it was for $40. And it's like, there's no way that 4 hours of physical time writing emails and stuff is worth $40, but I want to understand what actually goes on. And that gives me more comfort generally, because then if I get pushed in the future or hurt in the future, I'm like, I know what this is. Yeah.
What was the thing that you wanted a refund on?
It was a Jetstar thing, which is fairly typical of them. But
did they charge you for extra baggage or something?
No, they cancelled a flight that I'd paid for, and I'm going through that. But I mean, it's fine. I don't mind. It wasn't a big deal. It was some really cheap thing in a year. But
I feel like if you have the time, it's almost nice to stand up for people who don't have the time. To feel like, hey, this is pretty shitty.
Well, yeah, there was actually one instance of that where it was a bit of a complicated one, but there was this air show in Avalon down near Melbourne, and they one of the planes that was flying kind of crashed about halfway through, and no one died, thankfully. And I emailed the air show and was like, hey, this event, the event was cancelled halfway through the day. I drove all the way down to Melbourne for a one-day thing, and I was like, is there any kind of refund here? And they were like, no, and I pushed them on that and was like, I think half is pretty reasonable. You cancelled half the show, and that was a back and forth for 2 months, and they eventually approved it. And then at the same time, I saw a whole bunch of other people on Facebook groups get approved and feel relief.
Oh,
and I
awesome.
don't know if like I was a tiny cog in that or an irrelevant cog or a big cog, but to your point, yeah, sometimes it feels nice to be like, I know so many people out there that wouldn't even know what to do when they feel disenfranchised like that.
Yeah.
So it's good to contribute where you can.
It always feels like us versus the big corporations. So it's nice when people see the stories, especially of like someone taking on a big corporation and kind of getting their money back when they deserve it.
Yeah, particularly the big ones. Like if I'm at like a small business, like a cafe, and they give me something wrong, I'm like, I don't want to complain because their life is really hard. But yeah, if it's like a big business that I know they're insured, I know they have processes with this, like I run a business now, so I get my obligations. And I think that's another part of it too, right? Like we have customers, and I notice this with banks now, as banks do bad things sometimes. They make mistakes, and it's like, if I make mistakes, I have to, make it back to my customer. Yeah, I have to fix it and make it back to them and make them whole where I can. So I notice that more with other companies too.
Do you complain just so you can research for your own business as well? You're like, this is terrible. I'm never going to do it this way.
I probably haven't done that directly, but I had an instance where the bank I bank with, like they falsely reported something. They basically had an error in the system and they reported it incorrectly to a credit agency, which was very difficult. And I learned through that process what it would be like if we made similar mistakes, because I had to kind of go through the whole gauntlet with it all. So yeah, I mean, I don't do it for research, but it's definitely good as a small business owner to be like, oh, I kind of get what this is. And then it helps me understand, what other people will expect from us if we ever make a mistake.
Yeah. How do you find this stuff fun? For some people who are listening and they're like, that doesn't sound like fun at all. How do you try and turn something into something that's kind of boring and maybe a lot of work into something that's actually fun and rewarding?
I would say it's no more or less fun than going on a hike or going camping. It's like what I call like controlled stress, like we like doing things that push us a little bit. And for a lot of people listening, they'll be like, oh, that sounds too stressful. And it's like, that was me 10 years ago. And just like every other thing in life, there's like micro boundary pushes, right? Like 10 years ago, I would have never, ever emailed a company and been like, this isn't kind of good enough, and it might have started with calling them and just politely being like, hey, this feels like something's gone wrong. And they'll be like, too bad. And then I'll be like, okay. And then I'll like hang up, So yeah. I think it's like, don't take the literal example, just think about it as like, it's always like sit on the edge of your comfort and get comfortable there, and you'll just naturally build more confidence generally. Yeah,
I love, because it seems so simple, but I love the depth into it, where it's like, actually, push yourself to call people and to practice complaining and practice standing up for yourself in a context where it doesn't matter at all if they say no.
Yeah, if my 21-year-old self saw some of the stuff I do, they'd be like, oh my God, don't do that.
He's in a bush.
Yeah. I would stress my younger self out for sure if they were like with me when I do some stuff.
Yeah. I feel like I've gotten more chill. I let more things slide now that I'm older than I used to.
It's funny because and this is a very, I guess, personal thing, but like I don't mind when things go wrong, but I hate being taken advantage of. Yes. That sends me up the wall. And it's definitely my father. My father was one of those like right and wrong kind of like types, and I can feel that in me as if I have money in my pocket and I drop it like $20, I'm like, oh, it's okay, like I've worked hard and I can lose $20. I'll forget about it. My life's not meant to be here full of stress. But if I like order something at a cafe again and they just are like, they don't have my order and they're like, oh, we already gave you your order, and I'm like, no, I didn't, then I'm like, this is upsetting me now because you're extorting me is the feeling that I'm sensitive to. Yeah, I hate the unfairness of it. Where you're expecting something and it feels either unfair or like they've not lived up to the expectations that you paid for. I ordered what was it? Fish bowl, and it came without the rice. And I ordered rice and chicken and like the salad. And I was like, and they just left a little note saying, sorry, we ran out of rice. And they gave me nothing else. It was just like the chicken and a little bit of salad in the box. And I was like, oh no, that's not very fun. And I complained, and DoorDash didn't want to give me a refund because they'd already given me a refund for complaining for something else. So then I had to try and escalate it for ages. And then they didn't respond to me. So then I complained on Instagram, and then they gave me a refund. Yeah. And it's like, it's a shame we have to do that. Like I think our whole company Perla was at Bell's, the chicken place in Sydney. It's like fried chicken. And we ordered on our phone for like 20 people, and about 30 minutes later, no food had come out, and waited another 5 minutes, and I went up to the front and I was like, I placed this order, and they're like, we don't have it in our system. And it's like, I wasn't mad because they were just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they were like straight away, like, hey, kitchen, can we prioritize this one? And then they like brought it out, and they were just like so warm about it. And I think someone in my team was like, you should ask for a discount. And I was like, I think they've done pretty well. Yeah. Like, crap happens. They've acknowledged their mistake. They've acknowledged it. I like when they acknowledge it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, so, I guess for people listening to it, it's not just like counter extort. That's not the plan, yes. Right? It's like just try and bring to whatever your understanding of balance is in the world. And it's like, there's so many good people out there who make mistakes. Like Perla, we make mistakes. You know, sometimes someone will try and do something on our app and they can't that they really wanted to do. And, you know, we'll make it up to them, whether it's giving them our time or a credit or something. And I think as long as people are trying to do what's reasonable and just, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. There's another example I've been told about this morning, which I am struggling to find out where it fits in this model of challenge, I guess. I've heard that you were trying to optimize getting your wisdom teeth out and you decided not to go under general anaesthetic to save some money.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't done it yet, so we'll see how fraughtful it is. But yeah, so I didn't get my wisdom teeth out when I was young. I thought about it in my 20s. I didn't have a lot of money, so I was like, I'll just wait because there's no problem with it. And then they've started to hurt recently, which I've been like,
it's time.
It's time. And then I went to see a specialist, and they were like, the cheap specialist, you know, they're like, free consultation, you know, 4 teeth, no more than $900 kind of thing. He was like, no, which as far as I understand, he was like, your case is not simple enough that I want to do it.
Ah, okay.
So instead I went to like a more expensive one, which I did a bit of research. I called like 3 places, only got one consult because the consult's like $300. Like medical stuff sucks. And they gave me a quote. It was like $1,850 to take 3 wisdom teeth out. I can leave the 4th one in. And that's like normally what would be covered under extras with private health, but I don't have any decent extras, so that's not covered. But then the other part was they were like, and people who've been to hospital will know this, but I haven't done this kind of thing before, so it's new. They were like, well, then there's the hospital fees if you go under general. And I was like, well, that's good. I've been paying for private healthcare for 4 years now. And it was like, well, I need a $500 excess payment, obviously. And it's like, that I kind of expected. But then they were like, but then you got to pay the anaesthetist separately.
Yes.
And then there's like a Medicare schedule fee for the anaesthetist that Medicare covers 3/4 of and private covers the other 25, but then it was above that. And then they were like, you got to call them and see if they're in for access cover gap or something, which they were like, we're not. And so then it was like another $400. And now it was looking at like a $900 cost to basically go under. So it's like $1,800 for the extraction, $900 to go under. And I just asked the dentist guy, I was like, do you need to go under? Like, because I've had teeth problems before because of bicycle crashes. And he's like, you don't have to. And I asked him point blank, I was like, so just to summarize, is the reason people do local because they can't afford it mostly, or it's unsafe to do it? And he's like, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Because they can't afford it.
Yeah, because I think $900 is a lot of money. And then without private healthcare, I think it'd be closer to $3,000 from what I can tell.
So you have the money. Why have you decided to not go under? Do you just think it's ridiculous to pay $900? Is this just another challenging yourself experiment to see how painful it will be?
I mean, I've decided not to. I'm doing it in 2 weeks from now. So, you know, I'll message you in 2 weeks and tell you how I feel. But I think my philosophy with this one is it's an hour. It's just an hour.
Yeah.
It'll be like, it doesn't matter. Like after that 60 minutes, whether I go under or whether it's local anesthetic, I think just to be clear again to listeners, there's like local anesthetic that happens. They're not just ripping it out. After an hour, it's the same pain. So it's like, can I make it through an hour with local anesthetic for $900? It's like, even though I have that money, even though it's a fraction of the money I have now, thankfully, it just feels like a strange spend of money for something that's like over in 60 minutes. True.
Maybe we have different views of pain, but yeah, if it's only 60 minutes, you've reframed that completely.
So, I'll say it's not the pain that's the worry. It's the psychological warfare of it. So for example, I had to get another tooth extracted because of a bicycle incident. And that was pretty painless because they numb me pretty well. But the parts is like, it's like the sounds of the drills. Or I think, and just to freak you out, I remember feeling little specks of my tooth that they were drilling hitting my tongue. And like just little like someone's like sprinkled a bit of pepper on you. And it's like, that's the part that's close to traumatizing. It's not like pain.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, I'm like, okay, well, $900, it's an hour. Can I like lock in mentally for an hour and just be like, get through it?
Is this your like 200-mile marathon? It's your 60 minutes in the dentist chair?
Yeah, pretty much, I guess. But then I thought about it more and I was like, if I had $10 million, would I do general? And it's like, I still don't think so.
Interesting.
Because I think it's mostly in the head. I think it'd be very different if it was like an excruciating amount of pain. But it is like, and I think that helps that I can try and like challenge. So it is, I guess, a bit of challenging of like, well, I know it's just in my head, most of the discomfort. Can I like go into a Zen state, so to speak, during it? Also, there's thoughts that go through my head like, well, if I can't do this, how am I going to deal with all these other problems I'm going to face? Like I got all these years apparently of old age where horrible things happen and you feel crappy all the time. And it's like, if I can't put up with some like discomfort mentally for 60 minutes, like I'm screwed later on in life.
Yeah. I like that view of like, can I just put up with the discomfort now to train for the rest of our life? Because our lives have gotten very easy and money doesn't make our lives a lot easier, especially when you've got the surplus income to never experience discomfort. So it's an interesting way to challenge it, because I guess a lot of people now in my circle are doing Ironmans or marathons randomly, and yours is like, no, I'm just going to save money and sit in the dentist chair instead.
I think that there's these things that we get stressed about too. Like I always give the other good example, and you and I have flown a little bit, and it's like economy versus business class, right? And when people are flying, their standards for comfort go way up for some reason, I find. And they'd be like, if you said someone, oh, flying to the US is $1,000 or in business it's $2,000, they'd be like, oh, easy. I'll, like if they have the money, they will pay it. But then I ask people a similar question, which is like, hey, if you went home tonight and I said to you, can you just sleep at the kitchen counter, dining table, and I'll give you $1,000? They'd be like, absolutely. You know, they'll be like, easy money.
Yeah.
You know, easy money, because I'll sleep the next day. I'll like rest after. And it's really interesting, that psychology for me of like, there's certain environments where we kind of work ourselves up, sometimes for good reason, but we just get very stressed, and suddenly the kind of the matrix we have in our head of how we value time and money and comfort changes. Yeah,
the marketing's been very good for business class, I think, because you see all of these tours of like the business class seat, and when you step back, you're like, wait, why am I spending 5 minutes watching a review of literally a seat and where like how big this little screen is? But it's like done so well, where it's like this aspirational thing. It's not even just about comfort anymore.
They make you walk past it when you're up on the plane, you know, and you look at everyone who's judging your discomfort coming up.
Have you flown business class?
Yeah, I was once, I think one of my friends had like a staff travel thing where they gave like, they could give someone they know some cheap travel for a while. So I managed to get this business class flight. I think it was South Africa, and I think it was 1,000 return.
Oh, amazing.
Just ridiculously, it was like 500 return, not in business, right? And naturally I was like, well, I don't really like the idea of doing this, but it's so cheap, I might as well give it a go. And I actually found it a little overrated too.
Really?
Yeah.
I enjoy the experience.
I feel like that's what everyone else except me says. So I think that's pretty normal.
But then also there's cons to it. Like I eat too much and I don't feel great when I land because there's just so much food being fed to you the whole time, which isn't ideal. It's almost like healthier to not fly business class.
What I told people was that while you're lying down in the air, you're still in a tiny bed in a vibrating object with lots of people walking past you, and you get somewhere and you feel a little better, but you still feel like you flew on a plane and slept on a plane. Like I think in my head I was like, oh, if I get this one experience in business class, I'll get there and I'll feel great. I'll be like, I'm awake, but I still got there and I felt like crap.
Still jet lagged.
Like, yeah, exactly. So I think again, that's like a cost thing. Would I pay for it? Yeah. The most I'd ever pay for business class would probably be like 1.5 to 2 times an economy ticket.
Have you seen AirAsia does business class now, like the cheap version?
No.
They do lay flat seats where you get business class, but you still have to order off the menu. So it's not like you get the food and stuff included, but it's the lay flat seats.
Yeah, just the bed. Like bring your own blanket or something.
No, they give me a blanket. I got a blanket. Okay. I flew back from Kenya because they launched flights to Kenya, which is really random as well. So no one had really booked it and they were really cheap. I think the upgrade was like $500.
Yeah, right.
To fly all the way back to Melbourne extra in the lay flat seats.
That's
and it was just like an older plane. So they were like a little bit lumpy, but it was the proper like seats, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's lovely when you can get those experiences for like not a lot of money, right? Because it does feel silly when, you know, I've seen people go to Europe and back for $10,000 and I'm like, it just is dumb. It's a 20-hour flight. You'll be okay.
Yep, it's a nice flex.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like fancy food either. So I feel a bit wasted when I'm like, can I just have the chicken? And there's like all this fancy fish and seafood and stuff.
Fancy food like fine dining or like a restaurant with $60 mains or something?
Yeah, like on the plane when you're in business class or whatever, and there's like the caviar starters, or you can get the seafood platter or whatever with prawns and stuff on it. I'm just like, no. Yeah,
I don't drink, so I was overwhelmed by the champagne. Like I was like, this is like bringing me this sparkly stuff. And I was like, just give me some water. Like,
just some orange juice, please. Can I have another Diet Coke?
Yeah, it's weird getting older too, because when I was younger, like when I'm like 20 and I catch a plane and they're like, oh, do you want a drink? And I'm like, can I have some apple juice? You kind of feel normal, whereas now I'm in my 30s and I'm kind of like, oh, no alcohol, please. Give me some apple juice. No, I think it's good.
Like, I'm busy running my company, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But no, I'm the same with the fancy food. It just feels... There's a lot of cognitive dissonance that goes on when you have those kinds of experiences.
Yeah, I just don't really, I get more value out of a cheaper, yummier thing.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the other ones you were telling me about that isn't worth the money was making your own butter or ice cream. How did you discover that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a fascination with food because, you know, if I go back to from the age of 18 to 25, it's like there was nearly all the expenses were rent and food, you know, like rent, electricity and stuff. So food had always been a massive passion of mine to see if I could save money on it because I just couldn't not eat. You could kind of not do anything else by and large, right? But I couldn't not eat. So I was trying to figure out everything. Like at one point, for instance, there's like chicken thighs and then chicken thigh fillets and chicken thigh cutlets, and the cutlets have a bone in them. So like at one point, I literally would go to Aldi, I'd buy 2 packs, I'd cut the bone out of the cutlets, and then I'd weigh them. And then I'd see like what proportion they are cheaper, because they were cheaper than the fillets because of the bone.
How much cheaper were they?
They were the same. So then it's like, well, I mean, at this point they were the same. So it's like, then I was like, well, I'm not going to buy the bone one, because there was like a month there where I'd buy the bone ones and cut the bone out and think I'm doing the work. Like I'm not paying for the value add because I'm doing it myself. And I learned that wasn't really worth it. There'd be other times where I'd figure out like, you know, spice blends are a good example. Like if you have a favorite spice blend that has a random name like Moroccan seasoning or something, and you like look at it, it's just like 3 things. Yeah. And you can save tons of money just by getting the fundamentals. But the butter and cream one was, I was like, how much does it cost to make my own butter?
You don't have like a cow or anything. So
no, I just got, because it fascinated me too, because you can make butter just by whipping cream.
Yeah.
Like you just sit there with a bowl and a whisk. Takes like 40 minutes, but you get a blender and it's really quick. But then I looked at it and I was like, it's actually really not that much different in price. And the flavor's not that noticeable unless you're going to like smear it on a cracker or something, you know?
Yeah, because I don't think of butter as being that expensive for how much you get. I've never thought, wow, I'm spending so much on butter. But maybe I just don't eat that much butter.
Yeah, well, that was it. Like, I think it was more cream wasn't that cheap.
Yeah.
Like I kind of was like, oh, you know, you think of cream as a commodity like milk, but it's like cream per liter is pretty expensive. And then I tried to make my own ice cream, which sort of turned out okay. I'd say like if you're just trying to make, yeah, that one didn't work very well either. And that one's harder because you got to like get cream and other ingredients, then mix it, then freeze it and make sure ice crystals don't form. And
Did you get an ice cream like maker, or are you just doing it?
No, I wouldn't invest in that. Well, I learned that like if you put the ingredients together and then you freeze it, but every 30 minutes-ish, you take it out and you just beat it up and like remix it, you get something that's like maybe 80% the texture of ice cream. Because basically like the difference between frozen milk and ice cream is just how big the ice crystals are. And if you're beating them up while it's chilling, then you don't create these big lumpy ice crystals. And it was pretty cool, like pretty fun to make my own ice cream. But again, back to the learning thing, this is one thing I really liked is I think we've all had an experience where we've left the freezer open. And like, you know, I think I did this. I went and bought 4 tubs of connoisseur ice cream because they were on special. And I was like, yeah, like living life, $40 on ice cream. It's going to last me months. And I think my housemate left the freezer door open and I'd like come back and they were all kind of a bit liquidy. And I was like, oh my God, because if you refreeze it, it's going to get all icy. But then I remembered what I learned by making my own ice cream. And I was like, oh, all I have to do is just every half hour, I'm just going to open the freezer while they're refreezing, stick a spoon in them and give them a quick mix.
Keep reviving them.
And reviving them. And then I kind of brought them mostly back to life.
Amazing.
And I was like, oh, that's a nice little nugget that I would have only learned by doing something that turned out to not be useful as I thought.
I love when people just know the most random things like that. Like if it ever happens again, you're like, well, I prepared for this.
Yeah, it's some strange thing I've done, which has led to this moment exactly.
Did you make your housemate help if they were the one who left the freezer open? Or you just copped it and you were doing all the mixing?
No, I left the freezer open too much as a kid and got yelled at to punish someone else for that. I'm just
nice and empathetic.
It's fine.
What's something that you've really splurged on that's been worth it? Do you splurge on much at all other than toll roads?
Lately, I'd say I don't think I've splurged on big things. It's mostly the small things. So for instance, like I've been very busy the last 6 months and I've allowed myself to buy food for lunch and dinner up to $18 is my kind of max.
Per meal or per day?
Per meal. And I eat 2 meals a day. So it's like I basically am like, there's a $36 budget I can spend on food a day, like not making it at home because it's just been such a busy 6 months that like to shop and think about that and cook and clean. And like even as an example, this podcast we're doing today, if I was trying to cook this week, I would have already prepared the food for today before I found out I was coming here. And it's like life's very busy and turbulent. So I've been eating out more basically. Still like $18 isn't cheap, but it's not crazy expensive either. And that's been something I've just been like, you know, I've got too much to do. I'm just going to like mostly get takeaway or grab things on the way home. And that feels pretty nice. It definitely feels indulgent in like a positive way. That's like, I'm able to afford this, which is just great without even a second of doubt, really.
Yeah. Do you eat breakfast as well, or you only eat twice a day?
Yeah, I don't eat breakfast, but that's mostly because I spend too much of my life sitting in a chair. And I've learned that I don't exercise enough and I sit in a chair a lot. And if I eat 3 meals a day, it's very hard not to get fat, is the short answer.
When I travel, I used to only eat twice a day because it would just take so long in some places for food to come out. I couldn't imagine sitting down 3 times a day.
Like thought it was like a waste of time. I had a difficult time to go to a restaurant or a cafe.
Like
and then
in some places in like, I don't know, India was like so bad for it, but you'd sit down, it would take like an hour and a half for your dinner to come out. And then you'd be like, great, like I've wasted like maybe 2 hours at the restaurant and I didn't want to do that 3 times a day. And there's just like no need, especially if you're eating buffet breakfast and you can just skip lunch then if you wait late enough.
I think I'm like that because I had a friend once who said they were really annoyed. They were like, we've never gone somewhere to eat. And I'm like, what do you mean? We eat out all the time. And they were like, we only ever go to like food trucks and like restaurants where you pay in advance and they bring it out. They're like, I want to go to a restaurant where you order and you wait for a while. And I was like, oh, I never thought about that. I don't really spend a lot of time at those places, which is interesting.
I like when it comes out quick. I know some people love the experience, but I just can't be bothered with that. Unless I can bring my book, then it's fine.
Yeah, no, I'm like that. I'm not sure if that's a busy person thing or if it's some, mental defective element or something. Who knows?
It's just efficient.
Yeah, exactly. That's the positive spin. Very efficient.
Do you have another fun hack to leave us with?
Probably one I learned only literally like the last couple of weeks, which is, if people don't already, I'd encourage you to get really comfortable with any electronics or other things you have at home, understanding like wattages. So for instance, like if you've got a vacuum cleaner or a toaster, understand the wattages because then you can make sense of how much electricity you're using. You can also buy these great things off like Temu or AliExpress that will like measure.
Temu? I'm sure there's somewhere else.
Well,
do you shop on Temu?
Yeah. No?
Interesting.
Do you not like Temu?
No, not really.
Is it the quality of stuff? Or?
It's just like the overconsumption completely. Like you can get the most ridiculous things and you can buy so many of them at such a low price. There's no real barrier for people to not overshop. And like the Shein hauls I see are absolutely insane online where someone will be like, oh yeah, I just want a few things and like pour out the full bag and it's like 50 items that come out.
They often, and the minimums really hurt because they're like, here's a bunch of cheap stuff and you got to spend $40 and then people buy a whole bunch of.
Yeah.
I force myself to write a list of things and I only buy off Temu when I like feel that list big enough because otherwise I do exactly that. I'll be like, oh my God, a cable holder for 70 cents and then it just fills up
and then you
in
don't
my
need
drawer.
Cable holders. There's
exactly.
Like the hauls I see are just insane. Even with Amazon as well where people have all of these objects that we don't even need at all. It's like, oh, let me like clean my desk cleaner with me and it's a little vacuum thing that cleans on their desk, but you don't need like one that vacuums your desk. It's just so redundant. But there's so much stuff like that. Or they restock their ice. They pull out the freezer drawer and there's like little ice, bigger little ice, like different squares, different rectangles, like long ice for the drink bottles. And you don't need that many ice cube trays, in my opinion. I
completely agree. I definitely did my one Temu shop where I bought too much stuff and then I've been like, you need to never do that again. Yeah. And you can on Temu buy this like electricity measurer that tells you how much electricity you're using.
If you're in Victoria, you can get one for free from the government.
Oh, really?
An Energy Pal, I think it's called or something.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to find it to link it. But yeah, you can get it for free from the government.
Well, there you go. Thank you, Victorian people. And
but yes, if not, maybe Temu or somewhere else.
Yeah, wherever. Amazon's fine. And what I was looking at my aircon and I never turn the aircon on generally. Like it's that real like, oh, it costs a lot of money. And I was looking at it and then I read the label and it's really confusing because aircons give you a kilowatt figure, but that's often the cooling or heating effect, which is a different power figure to the electricity figure. So if people aren't following what I mean, just know that there's like 2 energy power usages on an aircon, like reverse cycle, but they mean different things. And to look at the one that's like electrical or ChatGPT or something with the model number. And this one, I noticed that it was only using 1.3 kilowatts to heat essentially. And I was like, oh, that's crazy because this like Kmart heater I bought, this mini Kmart heater was like 2 kilowatts. And I've been using that a lot of the time because I was like, oh, I don't want to use the big aircon, like big equipment, more electricity. And then even though I've learned about some of this stuff at university, it's like basically aircons separate and move heat around. Whereas like things like a heater, they just create heat out of nothing and basically creating heat's really costly. Mm-hmm. Whereas like moving heat around is cheaper. And I was like, I've spent 10 years being scared of air conditioners and using little portable heaters instead because it's little tiny
thing. It looks cute, yeah.
Yeah, it looks cute. You're like, how bad can it be? And now I'm like, wow, I could have saved money and like kind of warmed the whole room quietly without risk of kicking the heater over and lighting the carpet on fire.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of my latest revelation when it comes to spend, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's very, not quite a scam, but yeah, there's a lot of really energy efficient things out there that we've been told are a waste of money. And it doesn't actually work out that way.
Yeah, exactly. And it is so complicated because even my aircon's really old. It's 20 years old. And I looked at the cost of replacing it with an energy efficient one. And it's like, even that, the payoff I figured out would take 22 years, assuming electricity prices. And you just think about like a normal person is just going to be so overwhelmed all the time. Someone says, oh, your electricity bill goes up and then you got to turn the aircon off. And then you're like, maybe we should get a new aircon that's energy efficient. Then they go spend a bunch of money getting this. And like people aren't going to give them the help for free to figure out if it's like a good payoff, And that kind of makes me sad, but that's a bit of a tangent.
And then it doesn't matter what we do if the government doesn't deal with energy prices, but that's an actual tangent.
Yeah, it is. And I'm sure we could talk about that a bunch too.
Yeah, so I'll do a whole episode on that. But thank you so much for joining us. It's a nice reminder that the frugal hacks can be more than just the frugal hack.
Thanks, Tash. It's my pleasure.
Yay, bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, please rate us 5 stars, write a review, or share with a friend. If you're new to investing, make sure to listen to our first 10 episodes. Follow us at Get Rich Slow Club or Tash at Tash Invests or me at Anna Christina.
The Get Rich Slow Club podcast is a collaboration between Tash Etchman from Tash Invests and Anna Christina from Perla. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing. So make sure you check out our financial services guides and read the product disclosure statement and target market determination for any investments you're considering. See our show notes for more info. Any advice is general and does not consider your financial situation, needs, or objectives, so consider whether it's appropriate for you. This show was brought to you by Natasha Etchman, who is an authorized representative 1299881 of Guideway Financial Services, AFSL 420367, and Perla, who is an authorized representative 1281540 of Sanlam Private Wealth, AFSL 337927. The Get Rich Slow Club acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. From coast to coast, across land, waters, and communities, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.